What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another episode of Untouchable Conservative. Yeah. Yay's on. Driving home. Just got off work. You already know how I do. So, my friend was talking to me yesterday, who I work with. And sorry about the darkness, if it's too dark, but it's early in the morning. And she was saying that the man or fellas that she like are not really courting her or asking for dates. Okay. She said all the men that she like are no longer asking her to go out on dates. They're no longer interested in trying to pursue her. And she said that men, when they go out in the club, she said men don't approach them. They don't ask them to buy drinks. They don't do any of this stuff. Okay? And she was asking me, what's going on? What's going on? She said, Jay, why are men no longer approaching her? She says she was trying to figure this out. And this is a very, I would say, in my opinion, a very beautiful young lady, in her mid-20s, and I had to be honest with her. I had to be completely honest with her. And I believe that men, I hate to use the term alpha men, but real men are really starting to understand their worth. In the past, in the black community, the term is always happy wife, happy life. Okay? Nobody in the black community cares about the man or how he feels. Okay? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. The only thing important in the black community is making sure that the children are happy and making sure that the mothers are happy. Nobody cares about the men. Okay? So for the first time ever, men have the advantage. They have the advantage over the terrain. They have the advantage over typically what goes down. Most women have the most education in relationships. Typically. Especially in the inner city of Detroit, in these urbanized areas. Okay? But most black men who are under the age of 40, most of them are winning. I'm not going to say all of them, but most of them are winning. They're excelling. And then you got to remember, women typically outnumber men 2-1, in some cases 3-1. Now you're going to have those occasional women who are lesbians. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's go 2-for-1. Okay? So men are still at an advantage. Men are at an advantage. Then you want to go by the men who aren't gay. Okay, then you break it down from there. Then from the men who aren't gay, you go for the men who aren't incarcerated. Okay, then you break it down from there. Then you make it to the men who are actually doing something with their life. Okay, then if you want to break it down from there, you could go from the men who are actually successful. You know? So it's a lot of ways we could break this down analytically. You know? Sorry if it's dark, I'm going to keep recording though. So that's why a lot of these women are confused, because for the first time, men have the advantage over the territory of who they want to be with. You know, in the past, when I was growing up, you had to approach the girl, you had to take her out, you had to meet her family, you had to, you know, take her to somewhere nice to eat, you know, hope that she like you. Y'all would talk. Then if y'all, then you gotta wait a couple weeks after you talk, and then, you know, it was a long drawn out situation. Men nowadays, they not doing that. They are not doing that. Most men now are gonna say, hey, this is what it is. You know, you roll with me or you can roll out. You know what I'm saying? You can roll with me or you can roll out. You know, straight facts. No, as the young people say, no cap. You know, because a lot of things are happening now. You know, Section 8 is over with. Section 8 is over with. You know, that's not happening no more. Section 8 is over with. You know what I'm saying? So all these single women who claim that they're independent, yeah, they're getting a harsh and rude awakening right now. They're getting a harsh and rude awakening right now. Because Trump is shutting all that down. He got a whole investigation unit on fraud for Section 8. And those people who's doing fraud on Section 8, you know, they're gonna have to pay that stuff back. You know? So it's getting down to the nitty gritty, because he already cut the food stamps. So guess what? If you was getting food stamps, you're probably not getting, if you still is getting food stamps, you're probably not getting that many. And then if you was living on Section 8, you know, you probably on the timeline for that too. You know? And a lot of these Section 8 houses are better than the houses that me and you, we wake up every day and we go to work for. You know, I'm not saying all of them, because I have seen some raggedy ones, but I've seen some very nice ones as well. You know, so things are changing. You know what I'm saying? Things are changing, and things are changing drastically fast. You know. And, you know, a lot of people can say what they want about, you know, Trump. But he's cleaning up a lot of stuff, man. He's cleaning up a lot of stuff. And I'm not without compassion. You know, I understand that everybody need help. But you cannot sit here and give me a logical argument or articulate to me why anybody needs to be on Section 8 for more than 5 years. Really 3 years. You know, like at that point, you just making poor life decisions. You know, but for the grace, let's say 4. You know what I'm saying? So you got women out here that's continuing to be irresponsible, who want to lay up with these men, have unprotected sex, have children that they cannot take care of. And I'm not without acknowledgement from the men who are laying down creating these babies as well. So I'm not gonna put all this on the women, because that's not fair. But ladies, you gotta be real careful who you lay down with. You know, men equally as important. You know what I'm saying? Because I believe that's why so many minorities are struggling with raising families, because we don't allow exclusivity to our bodies. You know, most black women, and this is gonna hurt, most black women are not conditioned to be with one man. You know, and I know the men aren't conditioned sometimes to be with one woman, but the women, I blame the women, because they want all of these amenities just to be with them. You know, most women got a guy who takes care of their hair. And I don't understand why black women can't wear their real hair. You know, some of y'all do. But a lot of black women are not comfortable with wearing their real hair. And I think that's an unfair injustice to the young black men, because, like I stated in one of my previous videos, I don't believe a lot of these young men are really meeting a real woman, or who they're meeting at these bars. That's why I said quit going to the clubs, because you're not meeting the real person that you're trying to learn and talk to. Because if you go to a bar, you know, you're really not, or you go to a club, you're really not meeting the person you're talking to. You're meeting an illusion of what this person wants to be. You know what I'm saying? You know, you meet a young woman, you know, she might have on fake jewelry. Then she might have on fake eyelashes. Then she gonna have on fake nails. Then she gonna have fake hair in her head. You know, then she might have a fake body. And as young men, as a young black man in the city, you know, you're scrutinized if your jewelry is fake. If you have a watch on and your watch is fake, you know, are your diamonds real? So the club scene is creating a narrative that everything about a male must be real. You must have money. You gotta have a chain that's real. You gotta have a sweet car to get with this female who everything about her is fake. Everything about her is fake. And she might be on Section 8. And her credit score it might be a 200. And if you meet a woman who's actually, let's say, successful, she probably like girls. You know what I'm saying? So, for the first time, men have the advantage. Men have the advantage. And it's not even close. So, right now, men don't even have to pursue a woman. don't think it's necessary for men right now to even pursue women because of what I just named. Unless you meet a woman that's totally real, I believe men right now have the advantage. When I was coming up, women had the advantage. Right now, men have the advantage. And like the late great Kevin Samuel said, women that are above 35 and 40, they scrambling right now. Because a man's value goes up as he gets older a lot of times. And it really don't start going down to like mid-60s if he holding his own, if he doing what's right, you know. And it still could go up after 60. Women's value depreciates around, it started depreciating like around 40. You know, after 40, if ain't nobody really picked you up, you know, I hate to tell you ladies, but you know, you really leftovers. You know, a man can be single his whole life and be happy. And that's what bothers most women. A man could be single for his whole life and be happy. He can have one bed, one TV, and one couch for the rest of his life and be happy. Okay? Women can't do that. It's impossible. It's impossible. They gotta have a big house. They gotta have the best condo. They gotta have 1 million designer purses. They gotta have the best hair. They gotta have the most expensive nails. They have to have all these amenities to be happy. You know what I'm saying? And most men don't see that as being worthy to pursue. You know what I'm saying? Most men don't really see that being worthy to pursue. Why would I want to pursue being in debt? That's why most men most of my friends make over $100,000. I'm not saying all of them, but the majority of them do. And they're single. And they have no desire to settle down. None whatsoever. Because they know that when they go to the club, most of these women are behind on their phone bill, behind on their utilities, on Section 8, getting food stamps, got a kid at home, you know, so they looking for a way out. So it's very interesting. But without making this video too long, thank you for sharing, subscribing to my video. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm right. Let me know how you feel. Sorry about the lighting. It's 6 in the morning, literally, because I do work midnight, so this is the time I have to make my videos. So I do appreciate you. I do love you guys with the strength of Christ. Let me know how you feel about it. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs down. Appreciate it.